The story opens in the muddy trenches of the Apremont Ravine. The sky above is a bruised, unnatural violet. Heavy clouds hang low, releasing a steady, copper-smelling drizzle that stains the sandbags, uniforms, and skin of the soldiers a deep crimson. Captain Julian Vance stands on the firing step, looking through a trench periscope. The water dripping from his helmet looks like fresh blood, but he merely wipes it away with a sigh. Beside him, Corporal Silas Thorne is cleaning the lens of his Springfield rifle scope. "It's not right, Captain," Thorne mutters, looking up at the sky. "Back home in Kentucky, we get red clay mud, but the rain stays clear. This stuff, it feels like the earth is weeping its own veins." "It's just chemical vapor, Corporal," Vance replies, his voice raspy from gas exposure. "The Germans blew up an industrial storage facility 5 miles north last week. The wind brought the residue here. Focus on the mission." Vance explains the objective. A side Allied reconnaissance balloon has crashed in the middle of no man's land, directly between their trench and the German line. The balloon was carrying experimental aerial cameras with glass plates containing vital enemy troop movements. If the Germans retrieve the plates first, they will anticipate the upcoming Allied offensive, costing thousands of lives. Meanwhile, 300 yards behind the lines, in a converted stone barn serving as a field hospital, Dr. Helen Sterling is tending to a line of groaning soldiers. The blood rain has begun to seep through the leaky roof. She notices that soldiers exposed to the wet mud for too long are developing painful metallic-scented chemical burns. "We need to get these men under dry cover," Helen shouts to an orderly over the rumble of distant artillery. "This isn't just mud. The water is highly acidic. It's eating through their wool uniforms." She collects a sample of the red rainwater in a glass vial, determined to analyze its chemical composition, unaware that her path is about to cross with Vance and Thorne. Back in the trenches, the whistle blows. Under the cover of the heavy copper-colored fog, Vance and Thorne climb over the parapet. They crawl into the devastated landscape of no man's land, their uniforms instantly soaked in the dark red rain.
The crossing is treacherous. The ground is a slippery mass of crimson clay and deep craters filled with rust-colored water. Suddenly, a German machine gun opens fire from a hidden pillbox. Vance and Thorne dive for cover. Thorne scrambles into a deep crater, but the earth beneath him collapses. With a cry, he slides down a steep dirt chute, falling 10 feet into a dark, echoing void. Thorne lands hard on a wooden floor. As he struggles to his feet, coughing up dust, he hears the unmistakable click of a rifle bolt. Through the darkness, a voice speaks in accented English. "Do not move. If you raise your rifle, I will fire." Thorne freezes. He switches on his brass pocket torch. The beam reveals a young German soldier, Unteroffizier Dieter Brandt, holding a Mauser rifle. They are inside an abandoned French mining tunnel, used years earlier for subterranean warfare, now forgotten and half flooded with the red rainwater dripping from the ceiling. "I don't want to kill you," Brandt says, his eyes wide with fear and exhaustion. "I only want this war to end." Thorne slowly lowers his rifle. "We're trapped down here anyway. The tunnel collapsed behind me." Brandt lowers his weapon slightly. He explains that his unit was wiped out by a mortar shell 3 days ago. He has been hiding in the tunnels, surviving on muddy water and dry biscuits. Above them, the sound of artillery shakes the wooden support beams of the tunnel. Dust rains down. "The artillery will cave this place in," Thorne says. "There must be another way out." "There is an old air shaft," Brandt replies, pointing deeper into the dark tunnel. "It leads up near the old limestone quarry, but the water is rising there." Realizing they need each other to survive, the American sniper and the German soldier begin to navigate the dark, flooded labyrinth together, carrying only a single torch. Meanwhile, on the surface, Captain Vance has lost contact with Thorne. Believing his corporal is dead, he presses on through the blinding red downpour toward the crashed balloon. The metallic scent in the air is overwhelming, and his vision begins to blur from the chemical fumes.
Dr. Helen Sterling, realizing the danger of the chemical rain, defies orders to stay at the field hospital. She packs a medical kit and head toward the front-line trenches to warn the commanders about the toxic nature of the rain. and to search for survivors of the latest gas attack. As she moves through the communication trenches, she encounters Vance, who has crawled back to get reinforcements after finding the balloon guarded by a small German patrol. Vance is coughing violently, his skin showing signs of chemical irritation. "Captain, you have to pull your men back," Helen says, catching him by the arm. The rain is contaminated with sulfuric byproducts from the destroyed German chemical depot. It's causing severe respiratory distress and tissue damage. "I can't pull back, Doctor," Vance says, his eyes bloodshot. "The balloon contains the coordinates of the German reserve divisions. If we don't get those plates, the offensive tomorrow morning will walk straight into a massacre. My men will die anyway." Seeing his resolve and knowing she cannot stop him, Helen makes a decision. "Then I am coming with you. If your men are exposed to that concentration of chemical mist near the crash site, they will need immediate medical attention." In the tunnels below, Thorne and Brandt reach the base of the air shaft. It is a vertical stone chimney, but the bottom is flooded with 3 feet of acidic red water. Thorne helps Brandt climb onto his shoulders so the German can reach the rusted iron ladder rungs. "I have it," Brandt calls down. As he climbs, a rung snaps. He slips, but Thorne catches him, straining under the weight. With a final effort, Brandt pulls himself up onto a ledge and lowers a leather strap to help Thorne up. Emerging into a ruined limestone quarry just 50 yards from the crashed balloon, they find themselves in the middle of a deadly intersection. The climax unfolds at the crash site of the reconnaissance balloon. The balloon's silk envelope, stained a deep scarlet by the rain, hangs draped over a shattered oak tree like a giant, bleeding shroud. A small squad of German soldiers is trying to dismantle the camera equipment. From the opposite side of the clearing, Vance and Helen arrive just as Thorne and Brandt emerge from the quarry shaft. A sudden, chaotic firefight erupts. Thorne uses his rifle to pin down the German squad guarding the balloon. Recognizing the uniforms of his countrymen, Brandt faces a terrible choice. He screams in German to his comrades, pleading with them to surrender, shouting that the war is lost and the chemical rain is poisoning them all. A German sergeant, refusing to listen, aims his rifle at Brandt. Before he can pull the trigger, Captain Vance rushes forward, tackling the sergeant. The two struggle in the red mud. The physical strain and the toxic air take a toll on Vance. His lungs burn and his grip slips. The German sergeant gains the upper hand, drawing a trench knife. With a clear shot, Thorne fires. The bullet hits the knife, sending it flying. Brandt rushes forward, disarming the sergeant and forcing the remaining German soldiers to lay down their weapons. Helen immediately moves to Vance's side, administering oxygen from a primitive respirator she carried in her kit. "We have to get out of here," she says, her hands covered in the red mud as she treats Vance's blistered face. Thorne quickly climbs the shattered oak tree, cuts the leather case containing the glass photographic plates from the balloon's basket, and slides back down. "I have them, Captain," Thorne says, showing the intact case. Vance, breathing heavily through the respirator, looks at Brandt and then at the captured German soldiers. "They are prisoners of war now. We take them with us." As they begin their slow retreat back to the Allied lines, the wind suddenly shifts. The heavy purple clouds begin to part, and the unnatural red downpour slows to a gentle stop. A pale ray of late afternoon sunlight breaks through the mist, illuminating the valley. The blood rain has finally stopped. 2 weeks later, on November 11, 1918, the armistice is signed. Inside a quiet military hospital in southern France, Captain Vance, his lungs recovering, sits by a window. Dr. Helen Sterling enters, handing him a cup of tea. "The plates you retrieved saved the 77th Division," Helen says quietly. "The offensive was rerouted. The war is over, Julian." Vance looks out at the green, peaceful fields, now free of the red stain. "And what of Thorne and Brandt?" "Thorne is heading home to Kentucky," Helen replies, "and Brandt is being repatriated to Hamburg." They shook hands before they left. Vance looks down at his hands, which still bear faint, faded scars from the chemical rain. "We survived the blood rain, Helen. Now we have to learn how to live in the clear light." The camera drifts out the window, showing a quiet European countryside where the autumn grass is slowly growing back, washed clean by a fresh, gentle rain.